Dr. Ghost is here. Welcome to Real Horror.
Subscribe Real Horror and hit the bell icon, or we will come.
I got to know this incident from my mother. She told that her father and grandfather experienced this approximately 80 years back when they went to a river during midnight to catch fish. I would like to mention that catching fish during late night has been a trend for the fishermen, as big fishes are easily caught during that time. There are a lot of incidents surrounding fishermen and rivers. I'm gonna share this particular haunted incident with you in my mother's way. That day, my father was insisting my grandfather to take him while he would go to the river. My father was curious to see how his father used to catch fish, but my grandfather was denying to take him because he was a very young boy. As my father was uncompromising, my grandfather decided to take him that night. But he warned about something. He warned that my father had to stay close to him, and if he would see something, anything unusual, or call him, then should not react but stay calm. It was a moonless night. I repeat, it was a moonless night. They took a torch with them, but it was so dark that they could be in real trouble if the torch didn't support until they come back. But my father didn't know things were going to be worse. They reached at a quiet place in the river to catch fish without being disturbed. My grandfather was to throw the net and father had to point the torch, carrying a basket to collect fish. So, my grandfather started throwing the net. He did it over and over for an hour, but fortune was not in favor as they could hardly catch any fish. All of a sudden, a half-naked big man with a net and bucket in his hand reached the spot, but did not look at them for once. He was silent. I said big because my father said that he had a massive size like a beast. He threw the net, staying 10 to 15 feet far from my father and grandfather. But interestingly, when he pulled it, it was full of fish. They were shocked to see that. My grandfather could assume something was fishy there. The big man threw the net second time and got the same result. His bucket was already filled up, so he wrapped up his net and went away. My father was shocked till then, but angry too. He asked his father that how it was possible. My grandfather was sure till that moment that it was not something real, so he told his son that he should not focus on whatever happened and stay calm, and it was the last time he was going to throw the net. My father insisted to go exactly that place where the man was throwing his net. My grandfather denied and prohibited to mention that man again and again. Finally, at the 11th hour, a fish was caught. My father put it inside the basket and they started to come back. It needed 30 minutes walking to reach home. With the help of the torch, they were walking. After a few moments, they heard a cat call behind them. The boy turned back, pointed the torch, and surprised to see the cat was as big as a dog. The black cat seemed so angry, and it was like threatening them. His red eyes were staring at the basket. Maintaining a few distance, it was following them. It was like to harm them, but did not come too close as if something were keeping it far. After mewing for some time, it was gone, but this time something was coming from the front side. It was a dog coming towards them, barking. It wasn't something serious until it started growing bigger and turned into a horse and horse to a bull. It was like a dog was running and it turned into a horse and the horse turned into a bull. This happened in front of them. My father got scared. Then my grandfather told that it could not cross a line because of the stick he was holding. I repeat, the stick he was holding. The stick. I never mentioned about it. He had a stick that he used to hold to rule Jinnat. He used to swish them who came his way to trouble him. When he whispered something and knocked the stick 3 times on the ground, Jinnat used to disappear. As usual, grandfather whispered and knocked the stick on the ground. It disappeared. Then they reached home without having any more trouble, but the story did not end here. My father kept the fish in the kitchen and went to sleep. After 10 to 20 minutes, they heard a harsh noise from their rooftop. It was a metal roofed house. Someone was assumed to be jumping on the roof. My father and grandparents came outside and saw something very weird. Their eyes couldn't believe that. Especially my father couldn't believe it. But it was like very normal for my grandfather. A little girl was eating the raw fish sitting on the roof. She was wearing a white dress and her eyes were as red as the cat had. Grandfather went inside and brought the stick and warned that if it would not leave following them and try to harm them, he would strike that with the stick and end its life. Then it stood up and smiled at them. It was so scary that nobody can imagine. It ran over the other side of the roof. Then my grandfather said to my father that since the beginning we saw the big man catching fish to now the little child, everything is a toss. Actually, one Jinnat was doing everything. It was following the fish, not them. So, it was the story. After the death of the grandfather, the stick was stolen.